Hey guys, welcome to episode 6. We're talking about pause and positivity, how our pets improve mental health and cognition. We'll be back in a minute.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Dr. Michael Longyear. This is my better half, at least that's what she says, Dr. Meaghan Longyear. And we're talking about animals or pets more specifically and mental and cognitive health. This is an area both Dr. Meaghan and I have rescued dogs. We've fostered dogs over our times and things like that. So this is something that's very passionate for us as far as how animals and how dogs, and we're specifically dog people. I really don't understand cat people, but I'm sure
They're great too.
cats have the same effect. And a lot of the research pales out that, cats and dogs, they both have that positive influence, although cats are a little moodier, right? At least that's what my dogs tell me.
Hey, just like people.
Yeah, there's certain people that fit into that too. But honestly, dogs really play into, or having a pet can play into our mental health and our cognitive health in a lot of different ways. So, you can literally, if you just go into Google and research like the positive effects of a dog or a cat, I don't think we have a lot of kids that watch this, but if you're a kid trying to get your parents to buy you a dog, hit me up. I'll give you a bunch of research that shows why it will help. But they've been linked to a lot of different things and for a lot of different reasons, right? If you look at just anything at all, I think there's a few aspects of it that really play into this. One is having to care for something. One of the coolest groups that I've had the pleasure of working with when I was in Atlanta, there was a group in Alabama, and it was a horse farm. And they took soldiers with PTS, and everybody had heard of, at least I had heard of, hippotherapy at that point, where you get kids on the spectrum and with learning disabilities to get out and ride horses. But this was different. They actually had, soldiers with PTS, and they would come and they would ride. But more importantly, they had to care for the animal. They had to brush the animal, feed the animal. It put a routine into their lives, and it connected them back to a purpose, right? Something bigger than themselves. And I thought, for me, that's when I always knew dogs were fun, and we've always had dogs and rescued dogs, and they're man's best friend and all of those cool things. But for me, when I heard that was very powerful, and it changed my opinion of pets and what they really do to our mental and physical health, and our cognition too. There's some really cool research with elderly and things that we'll dive into over the course of this as well.
Well, and we know like a lot of people that, and you may be able to resonate with this like we do. When you are out maybe looking to bring, a furry friend into the family, and you start going through the shelters, or, maybe, you go through other avenues. But a lot of times people have shared, and you may know this in your own experience, I know we both did, that it was almost like a connection when we've always rescued, ever since I was little. We've always rescued in my family. And so Dr. Mike and I found our forever little buddies when we were in Dallas, Texas, when he was in school. And each of us found a dog that it just felt like there was a connection there. Like I just really felt connected with my Bailey, and he felt really connected with Charlie. And though we loved both of the dogs, there felt like there was a connection. And anytime that I might be sad or I might be going through something, it was like Bailey always would know, and she would come over. It was almost like she just sensed something. So in future podcasts, we're going to talk about that kind of frequency and that kind of connection and what that's all about. But in the healing aspect of how, just in my own experience, when Bailey will come over, how I feel myself start to calm down. A lot of our patients will make comments about that. As soon as my cat came and just curled up on my chest, and the purring, and I just started to feel relaxed, even though moments before I was having a panic attack, or I was overthinking something, or stressing about school, or whatever it may be. So there's such a healing vibration, healing aspect of these little furry people, or furry little creatures, I guess, not people, but furry little souls, that, it's almost like where they, they're here to help us in this journey. So whereas there's a lot of that science, I believe that there's a lot on a deeper level that we may not understand fully completely. I know you're going to probably go look for research articles and stuff to back all that stuff up, but just in the feeling aspect of it, just how they make you feel when you're around and the connection you have with them, how beneficial that is for your health, your well-being, your mental health, all of those things.
Yeah, nothing makes you feel happier than when you come home and the dog greets you at the door, right? She definitely doesn't get that excited to see me at the end of the day. Even at the end of a trip, right? My dog goes nuts when I come back after just a weekend gone. And from a soul connection kind of thing where she was talking, there's, that I don't understand most of that, but there is actually a lot of research that dogs can sense your emotions. And they even, like, you've seen it with a couple of our patients who have seizures or suffer from seizures or other disorders like anxiety or panic disorders. Dogs can actually sense a seizure before it's coming. And we had one patient that her dog, when a seizure was coming, before we ever saw a sign or a symptom, the dog just had this sense, this extra perception, and it would jump up on her and tell her to get down on the ground. And the first time I saw it, I was amazed. I thought the dog was acting out. And then 30 seconds later, after she was sitting on the ground, she started to have a seizure. So, there's an energetic, we understand, again, we've talked about it, this much of the energies around us. If the electromagnetic spectrum is as long as my arms, our ability to perceive and hear frequencies really fits in about a 2-inch window there. And so dogs maybe have this extra perception, one, to understand seizures, but two, they really do know when you're anxious or when you're having a moment. Another group that we worked with early on when we were in Atlanta was a group called Pets for Vets.
I was just going to bring that up about the woman with the glucose.
Oh, I don't even remember that story.
Oh, that was, yeah.
So yeah, we worked with a group called Pets for Vets, and there's a few of them, Canine Warriors, and there's a bunch of really cool groups out there that will pair veterans who have issues with PTS with a dog. And Pets for Vets specifically, just because we had experience working with them, they would meet with the soldier, they would understand their needs, their wants, they would go into their home, look at what they had the ability to care for, and then they would go pull a dog from a shelter, and then they would go train with one of our trainers and then get handed over to the veteran. And I don't remember the glucose story.
Yeah, the woman was having her sugar was real low, and she started just slightly, like, she didn't even recognize it yet. She ended up calling the team, her trainer, because they'd just given the dog that was all trained and ready and her new companion. And it ended up running up onto her, around her mouth, sniffing, kind of frantic and panicking. And she was like, what is going on? And so she went and checked her blood sugar, and sure enough, it was really, really low. But it was before anything, like she didn't pass out, anything like that. So I remember when she called and they were like, this is amazing, because she kept thinking, did you train the dog to do this? No, the dog just did it. So when they went and found that animal, and there was an intention to find that animal, was there a connection that was deeper than maybe our understanding of bringing that dog to this, or, the capacity of all these, animals sensing when something's wrong, with tumors. They've had dogs out, that can sense tumors on, the body before, imaging may pick up on it. They just keep nuzzling at a spot, and then, months later, something's found on, imaging. So, I think there's a lot more to these furry little love bugs that, we just enjoy having around the house, but the depths of what, their senses, they can't communicate for, speaking, though I know some of these dogs, the
kind of sound like
huskies sound like they're, definitely talking. But are they trying to communicate things with us, and, having that kind of bond with us, what they can kind of guide us that we maybe don't recognize, maybe we don't realize on a deeper, more sciencey level.
So dogs are really into the woo then. So dogs
super
are
into the woo.
Because I have
horses even more, from what I hear.
I have not seen Bailey read a research article yet, although maybe that's what she's doing while we're sleeping. I don't know. But
that could be.
Yeah. So there's that, and again, I love to be able to explain stuff, but there's certain things we just don't have the ability to measure and understand quite yet. Our technology is growing daily, and maybe one day we'll be able to measure that. understanding or see that part of the electromagnetic spectrum or understand more what's kind of being given off by that. But
or maybe we just tap into our intuition and we just kind of trust that,
that's
some of these
unacceptable.
feelings and
No,
these
I need to be able to
little
prove it.
thoughts that come with them could be leading us to something bigger than research can find in the next decade.
I have told you there are no such thing as feelings. They don't exist. Emotions are a figment of your imagination. But in addition to kind of the feeling and the sensing thing, right? Dogs, just from a scientific perspective, they've been shown to boost self-confidence. Again, I can be having a really crappy day. I could have screwed up 9 different times. When I come home, Bailey's butt's wiggling and I can do no wrong, right? As long as I give her a treat, I can do no wrong. She does get an attitude with me if I haven't given her something that day.
She's sassy.
But from boosting self-confidence, the other really cool thing that I love, and I'm sure we're going to do a session on this, but dogs kind of get you out into nature. They need to go for walks. They need to get outside. And there's nothing healthy about sitting inside 4 walls. Your brain wasn't meant to see right angles and straight lines. That doesn't exist in nature. So dogs kind of get us out. They can help add to getting our activity level up, kind of doing with some of those things. And we already talked about that structure to the day. They get you up off the couch. They might break your, death loop of scrolling on social media or something, or they might break your habit of watching Netflix until it yells at you and says, "Are you still here?" So dogs are really good at breaking that routine and giving you some structure and those types of things. And their companionship, right? They help the loneliness that for certain people dealing with, depression, or especially if you've like moved cities or you're somewhere, you've lost a loved one. Not that an animal or a pet will ever replace that person, but you can replace the relationship part of that a little bit. So, sometimes people suffering with mental health, and again, all of this is said with an air of caution, because I would hate for someone to take an animal on and then not be able to care for it because their mental health is too severe.
Yes.
Or when we jump into a little bit of how they help with cognitive health, if you can't remember certain things and you're leaving burners on the stove, maybe it's not the place to have an animal or a pet or something to care for.
Yeah.
But
there's other options in those, places, the shelters and like some vet, places, depending on the critical animals that are in there. But I know with a lot of the shelters, they're just looking for people that can, take an hour, come in and get one of the dogs out of the cage, come into the private room and just love with the kittens and the cats, just spending time with them. They're pack animals like we are. We need others. We need that connection. So even just going down to a shelter and just, you don't have the time and the energy and, the resources to have your own pet. There's other ways that you can still have that time to spend, that you're making a difference in that pet's life, but you're also doing a lot for yourself as well. Being able to, provide that care and that companionship, get some exercise, and make a positive difference with, these teams of people that are trying to keep up with, bathing them and feeding them and, giving them as much love as, they need to. So.
Or there's always emotional support goldfish or emotional support sea monkeys. Those can also be something to give purpose and connection to as well.
Absolutely.
I say that tongue in cheek, but I mean, honestly, anything that sometimes we just need something to listen to us and that we can talk to. And a goldfish, last time I checked, they don't do a whole lot of barking, or they don't need to be taken on a walk. So you don't get the physical aspect of that part of it. But they still help with a lot of the other things. But so also like with the cognitive health, right? So this is something that I thought was very interesting when you dive into the research on things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And this is where, to be quite honest, a goldfish might be more appropriate. So I said that kind of tongue in cheek for that part of it. But just the routine of having to remember to care for something and feed something and do that can be really powerful for somebody who is going through cognitive decline, especially in the early stages, or even better, if you have a family history of like cognitive decline, and getting a dog earlier on. And that way you kind of have that routine set up and you're doing that before you start to show signs and symptoms and those kind of things. Because it's been tied to having an animal to care for, learning new things. Dogs, my dog was Charlie, I was connected to, and I'm pretty sure she was smarter than me. she made me learn new things all the time, like how to dig a hole under a fence in under 30 seconds when you're not looking. So she taught me all sorts of lessons very quickly. And so, doing that or having to learn those new routines and kind of set those new patterns up can be really powerful for the brain. Because remember, new and novel is the language of the brain. So if you get a pet and you have to train them, you got to teach them to do this or do that, then that helps to kind of learn your cognition. They can also, if you need to meet new people, everybody comes up and says hi to the dog on the beach, right? So it's a great way to meet new people. It's also, if you have a not friendly dog, it's also a good way to stay away from people sometimes. If you don't want people to come up and meet you. We had one of each, right? We have Bailey, who's the social butterfly, like her, and that's why I think they connected. And then Charlie, who was a little grumpier and a little more standoffish with dogs, great with people.
Loved people. She's a people dog.
Yeah, she was a people dog, but not a dog. So it's a great way for that connection as well. And just, again, that physical aspect, the mental health, the physical health, and the cognitive health all really play together when you have that animal or that pet that you need to care for. On top of the connection and all I thought you were going to go way weirder with the connection and the soul contracts and all that kind of stuff with the animals.
Well, and I do believe that. I'm definitely the more on the wooer side of our team here. And I do believe that, our animals, I feel a very deep connection with Bailey, and the more that I read and follow up, I have some amazing authors that we've worked with both of our dogs to help heal some animal intuitives that have helped, especially before Dr. Mike's dog passed away, to help her with stuff she had going on. And I do believe that there's a soul contract. I do believe that these animals come and we find them because they're here to help us, and we get to take care of them and connect on a level that's just super special and wonderful, in this lifetime. And I get that not everybody's going to fall in suit and believe all the weird things that I believe, and that's totally okay. But I do feel very strongly that, the connections that we have with the animals, I didn't grow up with horses or anything, but I've had lots of patients and some of my mentors that have told me stories about working on horse farms, having horses, and the connection with a horse and the intuitiveness. Like the horse knew as they were coming down from, the house down to the barn, and it was almost like a telepathic communication between the two of them. Like we know that there's ways that, twins, like we were talking about this the other day with something totally different, but like how babies seem to communicate, and it's not understood.
Yeah, extra sensory, right? Not in the senses that we can necessarily understand. They get it, and that's I guess all that matters for their connection. But animals just have this kind of extra sensory ability to communicate with us in a different way.
Mm-hmm. And I think we possess that too. I think that we just get too busy in our, third dimensional world, and all the busyness and the noise and all the, interferences and stuff that come in that, kind of block some of that. But, if you have an animal, and I know a lot of people have said that I get that. Like when I'm sitting with my pet at the end of the day, and it's almost like I'll think of something, and then, the dog looks up at me like, and it's like, you didn't say a word. You didn't say, let's go for a WALK, or do you need to go outside or anything like that? And they knew. Our dogs know when we're going to the vet. I don't have to say a word. We're just leaving the house. And there's a whole different reaction when we're going to the vet than when we're going to go outside and we're going to walk around and sniff things and do things. So that there's just because science can't explain maybe fully what that is, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist and that it's not more than maybe we can put words to. But I feel that there's enough people, and ourselves included, that have, and there are a lot of books on there. It just may not have a fun little research article for you to be able to.
But there's another way dogs help. Kids, if you're listening, it'll help with your spelling. You have to learn to spell WALK.
Oh,
the
yes.
dog knows the word walk, but they don't know how to spell usually. And cookie, that's another word we have to spell oftentimes, because if you say that word at all around the house, or treat. Bailey's little ears go up and pops up. So yeah, that's another tip, kids, if you're listening. Spelling, mental health, physical health, confidence.
See,
dogs help with all of that.
it helps with all the things.
I don't know if cats are the same way. I'm pretty sure cats can spell. I don't know. Cats are a whole other level of woo that I don't understand. So
yeah, they're
seem
like
to
the
have
woo
a
woo.
whole different connection. I think there's a reason that they're in every witch movie. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't know what's going on there with that connection, but yeah, pets is, again, having a pet, just to bring it kind of full circle, having a pet is something that adds a lot of aspects to your life. From caring, it can reinstill purpose, get you outside that physical component, that structure to the day, those things that give you, and they love you unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only thing that, no matter what, I don't like the saying, but people are like, yeah, you can hit a dog and he'll keep coming back. Don't hit your dog. You don't need to prove that thing, but they do, right? No matter what you do to a dog, every time they see you, they're wagging their tail, they're happy. Even people that treat them horribly, and that whole other side of it, right? But they're
learn a lot from them.
Yeah, we can learn a lot from them, and they give us that unconditional love, and that's where we really increase that confidence, where it can help a lot in the mental health realm and in the cognitive health, having to care for something and get up and do those things, the physical aspect of it, getting out and caring for them. The research is all over the place, especially, like I said, the horse farm. If you know somebody with PTS, that's a great way. Make a connection with your local horse farm. Cows are really fun to do that with too.
Yes.
They're a little less thought of in that way, but cows, they make friends. They have best friends.
They do.
They play with dogs. Like, cows are kind of crazy in that way too. So if you know somebody suffering with that kind of stuff, and they maybe don't have the ability, or they're not in that place where they can handle an animal, connecting with a local farm or something in your area is a great way to get out and kind of do some of that stuff. But we thought this was an important one, especially, after the holidays and in the new year, people kind of take stock in their life, and sometimes they don't like where they're at. So you see a lot of rises in mental health in the first couple months, mental health issues in the first couple months of the new year. And everybody knows that around the holidays, suicides go up and things like that. So this is something to think about as we look forward to increasing our mental, cognitive, and physical health.
Absolutely. Yep.
So thank you guys for joining us for another episode. Stay tuned. We got some more weird ones coming up. And if you need anything, always feel free to reach out to us.